hybrid, genetically modified. These are all terms that are really good for you to be familiar with when you're doing your grocery shopping, when you're deciding what seeds to plant in your garden, when you're deciding what foods for your family to eat. The first genetically modified food on the market was the tomato called the Flavor Saver tomato, the Flavor Saver. So what it was is a tomato that was genetically modified to last longer, to stay ripe longer. That hit the market in 1994. So 1994, and it was the Flavor Saver tomato. So that actually was a bit of a flop. For one thing, people didn't like the taste of the Flavor Saver tomato, and because it was the first genetically modified food on the market, people were suspicious about it. So it's no longer on the market, and it was a big flop. But since 1994, genetically modified foods have increased and increased. So now 80 to 90% of what you eat is actually genetically modified. Now that does not mean that you can't avoid it if you choose to. You can, or you can for the most part. But if you're not careful, you're going to eat a diet of 85, 90, 95% genetically modified foods. And we'll talk about some pros and cons. So how did, since the Flavor Saver, who's a tongue twister, how did genetically modified foods actually come to popularity, since that was a bit of a flop? Well, the Hawaiian papaya. The papaya crop is a really big crop in Hawaii, and it's very important to their economy. So what happened is the papaya got a ring spot blight virus, and it threatened to wipe out the whole papaya crop. That would kind of be like in Georgia wiping out our peanut crop. A big deal. So a scientist actually inoculated, like it gave the papaya a vaccine. It actually took a little bit of the ring spot virus, which a virus is a strand of RNA. So it took a bit of the ring spot virus and actually inserted that into the DNA, the very fabric, the map of who the plant is. It inserted into the DNA of the papaya. Well, guess what? That actually did inoculate the plant somehow. That would be beyond my experience to explain exactly how it inoculated it, but it did. So it inoculated the plant against the ring spot virus in its very DNA. So you didn't have to go around and give an inoculation to every plant. That would just be, you couldn't do it. So in its very DNA. So when people planted them, these genetically modified papayas, they were immune, and the papaya crop was saved. So when people saw that, they were really all of a sudden on board with genetically modified crops. So the very first success was the Hawaiian papaya. Hawaiian papaya crop. So that's how they started gaining in popularity. So again, what are we doing? We're taking one piece of the DNA out of a living thing, or a virus, which isn't really a living thing, but it could be out of a bacteria, could be out of a plant, could be out of an animal, and we're inserting that DNA into another living thing. So a very popular genetically modified crop is Roundup Ready corn. So Roundup is a really strong herbicide. If you spray Roundup, it's going to kill everything, okay? So if you have a fence line and you don't want grass on that fence line, you don't want weeds on that fence line, you don't want anything, you spray Roundup. If you don't want any plant to grow there, you spray Roundup. So Roundup Ready corn, the scientists took something and inserted it into the DNA of this corn, so that when farmers bought this Roundup Ready genetically modified seed that had been had something inserted into it, when they grew it, the corn was resistant to Roundup, so the corn would survive. We also now have Roundup Ready wheat, Roundup Ready soy. So whatever this is that they inserted to make these crops resistant to Roundup, I don't know what it is. I couldn't figure it out, couldn't find out. Maybe you can find out what they actually inserted, but I really don't know. A lot of those things are hush-hush secrets, so trade secret, I guess. But anyway, So then the farmer could spray a field of corn with Roundup and kill everything except the corn. Now, how convenient is that? How efficient is that? So that's the allure of genetically modified crops. Not because they're better for us, but because they're more efficiently grown. They can be grown sometimes cheaper because it's so efficient. So therefore, food can be a little bit cheaper. Your quantities, your yields can be better. They can last longer, things like that. So it's all about efficiency for the farmer in production, efficiency in shipping, efficiency in staying on the shelves and being able to be sold longer. That's the allure of the genetically modified crops. So that's what Roundup Ready corn is. All right. Let's talk about some pros and some cons of genetically modified foods. Now, when we talk about this, all I can tell you is anecdotal things, okay? All I can tell you is theories. The reason I can only tell you theories is because it's illegal to study genetically modified seeds. Okay, I hear somebody calling me or texting me, so I'm going to end this video and get that in case it's important. Come back next video. This is part A. We're going to go on to part B, so hold that thought, and we'll come back with pros and cons.